Greetings, everyone. On behalf of PATA Singapore Chapter and our event partner, TTG Asia Media, a warm welcome to Day 2 of the SG Tourism United Forum. Yesterday, STB provided an industry overview and shared with us the many initiatives and plans to support the tourism industry. We also had an update on how Changi Airport managed to weather the storm and is now gearing up to welcome more travelers in the months ahead. Shah, Natas, ASA, and OBA shared how their members cope with the many challenges caused by the border closure and pandemic restrictions. We also had an insightful panel session on what the next 12 months may bring. Now, if you missed them all, no worries. The event recordings will be made available on YouTube, TTG Asia Media, tomorrow. For this morning, we will hear from Singapore Airlines and Dream Cruises, as well as updates from Singapore Retailers Association, Restaurant Association of Singapore, SASIOS, and Singapore River One. After that, we will have our second panel session. To help us kick off today's presentations, let's welcome Royston Lim, Manager Agency Sales, Singapore Airlines. Let's find out how SQ managed to keep the Singapore flag flying high since the pandemic broke, and are now getting ready to take off as more VTLs are being launched. Over to you, Royston.
Hi everyone, my name is Royston. I'm the Manager Agency Sales from Singapore Airlines, Singapore Sales Office. Today, I'll be sharing three main topics. First is on the SI Group and its contribution to the Singapore Air Hub, followed by how SI Group has been managing this unprecedented crisis over the past 2 years, and lastly, will be on how SI Group has prepared ourselves to emerge stronger. Let me now touch on the first topic, the SI Group and the Singapore Air Hub. Before the COVID-19 crisis, the SI Group flew to 137 destinations, which is about 83% of all the destinations connected through Singapore. 36% of these destinations are uniquely served by the SI Group. We also serve many points in key markets such as India, China, as well as the Southwest Pacific and Southeast Asia regions, connecting many passengers to these destinations. We are the second biggest airline in the world with the largest number of points to China. We also serve 13 points in India, which may not seem like a lot. However, we are the biggest foreign carrier to serve India. Due to our dense network, the SI Group acts as a magnet to attract foreign carriers to operate into Singapore. We connect with 63% of carriers that operate into Singapore. If we include the aviation sector, as well as the other related industries like tourism, hotels, and MROs, we can see that aviation sector is a key contributor to Singapore's economy at about 12% of the GDP. These figures were provided by IATA in 2018. There are also more than 130 aerospace companies in Singapore, which is probably the densest number of aerospace companies in the world. The SI Group has a broader impact to the economy as we provide strong passenger and cargo connectivity, which is extremely critical for businesses' operations in Singapore. Now let me share how SI Group has been managing this unprecedented crisis over the past 2 years. The lockdown in Wuhan happened near the end of January last year, and thereafter, the virus spread rapidly throughout the world. International border closures happened in quick succession, and as a result, most international borders were closed by April last year. As a result, our capacity was brought down to only about 4% of our pre-COVID-19 capacity. With such a drastic drop and massive disruption to the travel market, one of our key priorities was to handle the massive disruptions to our operations, to our customers, and to our employees. A lot of resources were devoted to handle such disruptions and to minimize the inconvenience caused to our customers. Another key priority was to ensure that we had enough liquidity to survive. We were among the earliest to go out and raise a significant amount of fundings. We started with 15 billion Singapore dollars raised from our shareholders. With the strong statement of support from the Singapore government, we were also able to successfully raise another 6.6 billion Singapore dollars from various sources. At the same time, we were also one of the earliest airlines to begin conversation with aircraft manufacturers to defer our capital expenditure in the area of aircraft payments. We also took steps to reduce costs in other areas, including a painful exercise where staff incomes were reduced. All these efforts, together with the initiatives from our transformation program, has led to an effective reduction in our cash burn. We were fortunate that while this crisis has a huge impact on our passenger business, it created a lot of demand for cargo transportation. Example, medical supplies, food supplies, perishable. We knew that we had to capitalize on the cargo demand during this period. And a creative thing that we did was to operate passenger aircraft to carry cargo, where we placed cargo in the passenger cabin and not just the belly hold. Subsequently, we removed some of the passenger seats in some aircrafts so that we could accommodate more cargo space in the aircraft cabins. We were one of the earliest to identify that vaccine transportation would be very important, and so we ensured that we had the capabilities to do so very early on. We were the first to transport a shipment of vaccines to Singapore and also aided in the transportation of vaccines to other countries like Indonesia, Australia, New Zealand, the Philippines, among others. Even as we work on ensuring we had sufficient liquidity to survive and scale down our operations, we continue to serve the community. We reached out to government agencies to see how we could help with the fight against COVID-19, and this saw the conceptualization of the SIA Group's Ambassador Program. We had over 2,000 staff redeployed to over 30 organizations where they took on roles such as care ambassadors, transport ambassadors, among others. We received good feedback from the various organizations and took the opportunity to launch the Singapore Airlines Academy, a new arm that will offer training program in the broad area of service excellence, operational excellence, organization innovation, and digital transformation to external business and organizations. Since its establishment, we had more than 500 organizations who reached out to us for help with the training of their staff. Throughout the crisis, we constantly look for ways to create opportunities and engage with our customers and staff. With COVID-19 drastically reducing the number of flights operated by the SIA Group, we created unique activities that will allow us to engage with our fans and customers. To discover your Singapore Airlines suite of experiences, which include SIA at Home, Restaurant A380 at Changi, and Inside Singapore Airlines, were a result of a market study and comprehensive review conducted by SIA. All three experiences were a huge success, and we were very encouraged and grateful for the enthusiasm and passion that we saw from both our customers as well as our employees. The last topic for me today is about how SIA has prepared to emerge stronger. We undertook a comprehensive review of customer journey and did a deep dive into around 100 checkpoints to ensure the health and safety of our staff and customers. We reinforced existing procedures, enhanced some of them, introduced new measures to supplement them, and used digital technologies to complement. This was important as, in this climate, robust health and safety measures are an important part of our premium position and brand promise. We needed to proactively take steps to reassure our customers and staff and ensure that they are confident when they travel with us and work with us. We leveraged the digital foundation that we built in our earlier transformation program, and the digital solutions we have in place allow our customers to have touchless interactions at certain touch points. Our efforts in this area have been recognized with the highest ranking in the two leading industry metrics for health and safety measures. They are the 5-star rating in the Skytrack COVID-19 airline safety audits, and the Diamond Award in the Apex Simply Flying rating. Scoot was also the first low-cost carrier to have achieved these recognitions. We also took into other aspects to improve the customer experience. We continue to invest in the latest cabin products, and we just recently launched our new narrow-body cabin products. We constantly improve and enhance our food offering on board, and this includes the latest introduction of famous local cuisines such as Buntonki chicken rice. We also launched a new short-haul economy class meal concept where we provide customers with a greater variety of local Singaporean and international flavors on selected routes, served in a leak-proof box which retain gravy and super dishes without any seepage. We introduced the SIA Sonic branding, an original composition incorporating the endearing "A Great Way to Fly" jingle that we have, and we will be launching our signature SIA scent called the Batik Flora in the coming weeks. Continue to enhance the value propositions for our frequent flyers. We added close to 250 non-air partners that will allow our KrisFlyer members to redeem their miles beyond flying. We also have Kris Plus, an app that brings payment, lifestyle, and reward services together in one platform for our customers. Building on the strength and popularity of the Kris Pay app, Kris Plus goes beyond being a loyalty wallet and combines the best in dining, retail, and entertainment discounts. It also offers customers the option to earn miles from everyday spend or pay for purchases and experiences with these miles. Kris Shop has also successfully pivoted into tapping the e-commerce area to enhance and improve their revenue. Earlier this year, we became the first airline to offer live online shopping on board our aircraft, as Kris Shop became available via the Kris World in-flight entertainment system. Customers are able to choose from over 4,000 products across a wide range of categories. They enjoy duty-free prices on order that are delivered on their next Singapore Airlines flight, or choose to have their purchases delivered directly to their homes. During this period, we continue our discussions with partners all around the world to see how we can enhance our partnership for the convenience of our customers. In November this year, we announced the reactivation of codeshare agreements with Malaysia Airlines between Singapore and Kuala Lumpur and expanded it to include 15 domestic points in Malaysia and 7 destinations in Europe. This provides customers with a seamless journey for their business or leisure travel. We also deepen our partnership with Garuda Indonesia, where we will explore a wide-ranging commercial partnership to provide our customers with additional options and an enhanced travel experience. We also signed an MOU with United Airlines to facilitate the transfer of passengers in domestic points in the United States. We will also continue to aggressively capture cargo momentum by converting several passenger aircraft into freighters, and we also enhance our pharmaceutical cargo capabilities with TrueCool. Successful transformation program prior to the COVID-19 crisis significantly improved our capabilities, giving us a strong foundation to build on. We launched a new 3-year transformation program in October 2020, which focused on ensuring that we continue to deliver world-class products and services that are relevant in the post-COVID-19 landscape, being financially sustainable and in the operating climate, and ensuring our customers, our people, are ready and equipped with the skills needed for the future. We have also grown our adjacent businesses and set up new ones during COVID. We will continue to invest in them. All of these will help to ensure that SIA leads the new world. The transformation program and its initiatives is also about preparing the organization to be able to react quickly to changes in the market in a nimble and flexible manner. The Singapore government recently launched many vaccinated travel lane arrangements with many countries, and these have brought about a meaningful increase in traffic. With these arrangements in place, we expected to operate 43% of our pre-COVID-19 passenger capacity in December 2021. The route may not be smooth, as countries around the world are likely to continue to deal with new waves and public health concerns. And this can be seen in the detection of the new Omicron variant. On the right side of this slide is an illustration of the agility that we have during this period, where we tap into all possible revenue opportunities. We have proactively tapped into intra-Europe traffic, as well as transatlantic and trans-Pacific traffic. We will remain steadfast in our commitment to our customers by strengthening the three pillars of our brand promise: service excellence, product leadership, and network connectivity. We will also continue to do everything possible to safeguard the health and safety of our customers and employees, bring them greater peace of mind at every step of their journey. And with this, I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Royston. Yeah, having been grounded for so long, I'm sure many of us can't wait to get on an SQ flight. We have no doubt Singapore Airlines will spread its wings far and wide once the recovery takes off. Next up, we have Michael Goh, President of Dream Cruises. Mike will share with us how the cruise industry navigated the choppy seas and is now all ready to welcome more passengers on board.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Michael Goh, President Dream Cruises. Thank you, PATA Singapore Chapter, for inviting us for the SG Tourism United Forum to talk about the present and the new year. Okay. The topic I want to share today is a new world of cruising unveiled. For the last 20 months, it has been a very difficult time for the travel industry, and the cruise industry are not spared as well. And we had actually developed the Dream Cruises Care, Cruise with Confidence. It is important actually for us to educate the publics about the safe cruising, and as well as how we safeguard the health and safety of our guests and crew. And this is in fact our utmost priority. We have to rebuild in terms of health and safety standard, safe management measure, and we have to go to external certification, and as well as educating the community. We also have to reassure and to reaffirm the trust in the cruise line to the consumer, reaffirm the trust with the travel agency, as well as consumer relationship. Importantly, we have to give our consumer the peace of mind. We have to renew that the ship is now the destination. We have to pen up emotion, desiring for consumer to want to travel again. We have to understand consumers' need and also accord them with a peace of mind when they come aboard the ship. So education is the key. Now, what are the pre-cruise boarding prevention measures that we have implemented? We had implemented the same day COVID-19 antigen rapid test on the day before the passenger board the ship at the cruise terminal. We have to establish a contact tracing, and we have developed a device called the Tracy. That actually allow us to be able to identify the close contact when there is a need. We'd also have to manage the passenger management at the terminal, and we go into digital platform for mandatory check-in, have to make arrangement for staggered arrival at the terminal to avoid overcrowding, and as well as to redevelop the process and SOP for embarkation and disembarkation procedure. When it comes to crew quarantine and management, we have a very stringent control on the new sign-on crew training in terms of the safe management measure. We do a daily temperature check. The crews are trained pertaining to PPE and mass actually arrangement as well when they perform their duty. We have to ensure we have a well-equipped medical center. We have a COVID testing capacity. We have 2 doctors, including an infection control officer. We have isolation ward, and also cabin can be converted for quarantine purposes when there is a need. The cruise ship is also operating at the reduced capacity. As of now, for Singapore and Hong Kong, we are running at 50% occupancy. The next slides I wanted to share is the Star Cruises ships extended actually to support the Singapore to fight the COVID-19. So 2 of our ships are being used to house the recovered migrants worker in Singapore. In fact, this is a very important chapter to restart the cruise industry. At the time that everyone think that cruise ship being one of the unsafe venue actually to house the guests, and we were able to use the cruise ship for these purposes, it is in fact a great testimonial to reassure both consumer and authority how safe is cruise ship. We are thankful to have the opportunity to provide these services for Singapore. And with this, we also gain a lot of knowledge in terms of COVID-19, and we have also partnered with DNVGL, a German specialist in marine communicative disease. With that, we are able to provide safe cruising for our deployments in Singapore, Taiwan, and Hong Kong. So what are our key milestones in 2020 and 21 during this pandemic? I think in May 2020, we were the first cruise line in the world to be chartered for the pandemic support in Singapore. In July 2020, we were the first cruise ships in the world to resume our sailing in Taiwan. And in our deployment in Taiwan, we had 91 cruises with 94,000 passengers. And in November 2020, we are the first cruise ship to restart our sailing in Singapore. Till now, we had 161 sailing with 216,000 passengers. And in December 2020, we launched the first Asia Pacific halal-friendly cruise ship with halal and vegan DUA certifications. So in 2021 July, Crystal also resumed the sailing in the Bahamas, Bermuda, and Icelands. And in the same month, July 2021, we were also the first cruise ship to restart our sailing in Hong Kong. And to date, we have 51 cruises, carry 76,000 passengers. With over 300 sailing and close to 400,000 passengers, you can see that this is really very significant and really remarkable. The new world of cruising is different. We are not taking the passenger to any destination for a start. So we have to develop a new cruise concept to our consumer, and we have developed with this called the super staycation. We combine the entertainment element with the staycation on board the ship, and as well as implementing many interesting programs and make it an integrated concept, holiday concept for our cruise passenger. And this is really very well accepted by our cruiser. I wanted to take the World Dream Ship home port in Singapore to showcase to our trade friends here. The ships that we use to operate in Singapore is the World Dream, is 150,000 tonnage that we could actually cater up to 3,000 over 3,000 passengers, and we have 1,686 cabins. And obviously, this ship has a lot of facility, both indoor and outdoor, include 35 kind of restaurant and bar concept with 6 water slides, zip line, and this is really an excellent ship to cater to the Singapore as well as international passenger. Now the next, I'm talking about the palace. Why am I talking about the palace? Because in this pandemic, we realized that luxury segment is in fact a very in-demand segment of our business, where the World Dream have close to 170 suites on board the ship, and we are running close to 100% occupancy for most of our sailing for our suites. Consumers are looking for private space where the palace fit in perfectly in this environment. Where we are talking, the guests are being served by the butler and the concierge, and we had private pool, private dining, and guests are escorted into designated seating into the theater. So this experience really fits very well, especially at this time. So we would encourage that for the travel products, spend more effort, I think, in the luxurious segment, because you will really see a great return in this area. With the ship home port in Singapore, and we are running 3 cruises a week with an average of close to 6,000 passengers. We have to create reasons for our consumer to come on board the World Dream. And one of the very important segments is in fact the halal as well as the vegan certification. So within a very short span of 2 weeks, we will manage to get the ship to be certified, and we'll be able to cater to our Muslim and the vegan community in Singapore. So what exactly is Muslim friendly on board the cruise ship? I think we are talking about halal certified cuisine. We are talking about dining services. Example, we have the Sahar and Iftar meal daily during the Ramadan period. We had a prayer room to cater to the needs of the Muslim passenger. During the Ramadan period, we also run some Ramadan programs that we actually offered 3 to 5 times prayer with the Imam on the daily basis. And when we talk about halal, it is not just about food, it's about the lifestyle. So even in our Crystal Life Spa, we also have made special arrangement to ensure that our Muslim guests have the comfort while they are actually using the facility. The halal has a huge population in Asia and especially in Southeast Asia. So with Indonesia and Malaysia, more than 60% of their population are Muslims. That definitely opened up a great windows of opportunity. So what we're actually doing today is we are addressing the present need, and we are also preparing for future. One very important change in this pandemic, in fact, we see a big change in terms of age group cruising. We used to have 70% of our consumer aged between 40 to 70 cruising with us. But for this pandemic, we see a big increase of the age group between 20 to 40. And this commands almost 60% of the segment. So therefore, when the customer come on board, when the passenger age are getting younger, we have also renewed the programs that we do on board. So we introduce like vitamins C, and we have engaged a celebrity trainer to come on board and actually do fitness program for our passenger. Partnership is another an important segment. We had the Singapore Airlines KrisFlyer charter on one of our sailing, with that we have also expanded our partnership with Singapore Airlines, be it whether in the redeem of miles programs or setting up a cruise shop on board the ship, and cruise and earn program as well also been introduced. So this definitely further enhance and expand our pool of customer base. So partnership at this point of time is important, I think, in terms of driving new opportunity ahead. We'd also launched a program. It's called the Support Local Products. As all know, I think the Singapore local SMM, they are facing really very difficult time. Therefore, we've actually identified 4 partners, namely 1872 T, Premier Ice Cream, the Animal Projects, where the artists that will design the products autism, and also we also partner with a fashion called Binary Star. Now with these 4 partners, they come and develop special exclusive products for our cruise ship. So when our passenger on board, they'll be able to buy something that designated and designed for Dream Cruises. And in fact, we find this is really a very meaningful, we further, with the support of Singapore Tourism Board, they have also come in to support us in this project, and we will continue and make this a trademark actually for Dream Cruises. Now, when we do this, it's not just for today. When the regional or international market reopen, we will be the only cruise ships in Singapore that carry the support local products and will be able to demonstrate and showcase to both regional and international passengers. And these travelers on board the Dream Cruises or the World Dream will be able to purchase exclusive item on board. In fact, this is very meaningful. With ships not calling into destination, and we know that everyone is so desperate of traveling out, and we are not able to do so the last 20 months. We have also introduced Around the World on the World Dream, and we bring different destination experience on board the ship. Give an example. In March, we bring Rhythm of Korea. In April, May, we have Amazing Thailand. From June to August, we have a Wonder of Japan Festival. And September, October, we have a Night Market of the World. And now we just launched the Nordic Christmas Adventure. Now, this partnership are with the support of the tourism board of various countries, the embassy, and they were delighted that the World Dream can be an excellent platform to showcase the destination and prepare when the border reopen that the destinations continue to do well. And this partnership has proven very popular among our cruiser. And through these programs, we also entice many repeat customers. Some of our customers have actually cruised with us almost actually every month, or at times that when we change our new teaming. This actually fully demonstrate that how important is adaptability, how important is that we are able to be quick and implement programs to meet the consumer's needs. In Taiwan, we are the first cruise ships actually to operate in the world. And in Taiwan, we actually do the island hopping, and we take our passenger to Hualien, Kaohsiung, Kinmen, Machu, and so on. Now, despite that, there was a short kind of like stop, I think, in the cruising. We are confident that Taiwan will be able to restart cruising very, very soon. Now, what is actually, what do we look forward for the last quarter this year and as well as 2022? There are so many positive news happen the last couple of weeks. I think first being relax in the dining policy, and also we anticipate an increase in the cruise capacity across Genting cruise ship in Singapore and as well as Hong Kong. The good news is Hong Kong has announced that they will increase the passenger capacity to 75% effective 1st of December. Next, we are also seeing a huge new fly cruise business opportunity with the VTL lanes actually opening. The key segment of the markets like Indonesia, Malaysia, India are also included in the VTL arrangement. So therefore, we are very confident that the inbound will become very active in the near future. Third, the launch of destination-centric cruises is also important. We'll be able to bring our cruises again to their favorite destination like Phuket, Langkawi, Penang, and so on. And we got the chance to get the Penang fried kway teow, Penang laksas again, and all the favorite Thai food by the cruise ships. Last but not least, actually on my list here is about the arrival of the Grover Dream in Asia by Q4 in 2022. That will be the new build that joining our fleets in Q4 2022. From here, you can see how optimistic we are and how confident we are, and we definitely look forward to a very vibrant 2022. Despite the latest development on the COVID variants, we remain optimistic in the cruise industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike, for educating us on all the exciting stuff that you guys are doing and making cruising safe. I certainly learned a lot. So very soon, cruises to nowhere will quickly expand to cruises to everywhere. When you travel, if you didn't get to enjoy good shopping and yummy food, you will probably complain that it was not a good trip. And this is the reason why we have SRA and RAS here today. They are very much an integral part of the tourism ecosystem. Rose Tong, Executive Director of Singapore Retailers Association, will tell us about the current retail scene and how retailers have transformed over the 18 months in their efforts to fight the pandemic. Over to you, Rose.
Thank you, Soon Hua. Hello, everyone. Thank you. Let me just share with you a little bit about myself. I'm the Executive Director at Singapore Retailers Association. I literally grew up shopping daily, having started my career in retail, but on the landlord side. It started at Raffles City, and I've covered almost all the malls around Marina Bay Belt in the last 30 years. I reckon my background has given me invaluable experience and insights on the landlord-tenant relationship and its dynamic challenges, which have also put me in good stead, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, to helm SRA. If you do not already know, SRA was founded in 1977, originally as a Singapore Retail Merchants Association by 10 leading retailers. It is today a non-profit, leading independent, non-governmental retail trade body in Singapore, funded entirely by the private sector. It is led by 18 council members from leading companies comprising both SMEs and non-SMEs. SRA's vision is to be the respected and collective voice of the retail industry and advance the interests of the retail industry via insights, education, and strategic collaborations. SRA organized a wide range of year-round programs ranging from industry events and conferences, market insight sharing sessions, training, learning journeys, and overseas study missions. We also offer professional guidance and mentorship for retailers' growth and business development. We have a membership of about 450 companies, which reflect the diversity and vibrance of Singapore's retail industry. A list of what you will probably see in a mall directory: fashion apparel, accessories, furniture, furnishings, electrical, electronics, and the like. The impact of COVID on the retail industry. Well, I think needless to say, you all know that the retail sector is one of the industries that has been particularly hard hit by the pandemic. I shall not elaborate on all the issues that have taken place, etc. But it is suffice to say that some retailers managed to stay afloat with the government fiscal support, while others made the tough decision to close their businesses. I would say that the industry has shown resilience in the face of challenges, and businesses adapted quickly to meet the ever-changing safe management measures, as well as changing consumer demands. Being forced to accelerate digital transformation during the pandemic has made retailers more aware of the importance of omni-channel sales strategies, and more businesses today have a greater presence on e-commerce and social media platforms. Retailers also recognize that they need to continually respond to the ever-changing retail landscape and consumers' preferences through technology adoption, reskilling, and upskilling their employees to be more resilient and maintain market share. And of course, the power of cross-sector collaboration to offer customers new and different experiences. SRA acted on what we preached. We continued with our signature Great Singapore Sale event in 2020 by going fully online. We collaborated with Singapore Furniture Industries Council, or SFIC, for an augmented reality furniture centrum to showcase retailers' furniture and lifestyle offerings. And with Textile and Fashion Federation, or TAFF, and Attractions Association of Singapore, we produced videos to showcase local fashion offerings against the backdrop of our Singapore attractions, just to stay, on top of everybody else's mind, especially the locals. We had gamification, we had a virtual catalog. We also conducted live streaming, which is a new market trend to selling, to help retailers sell their products. And in 2021, we partnered Lazada with exclusive privileges for SRA members to help retailers get aboard e-commerce for a wider reach. Are we ready for the retail recovery? Well, it has been a long roller coaster ride with the frequent start-stop safe management measures, which impacted on shopper traffic and definitely sales. Operating costs, manpower, cost of goods, logistics, and even rental increased significantly. Supply chain disruption hampered business operations and sales. New to digital tech and online retail, businesses suffered in the earlier days of the pandemic. However, retailers have slowly but surely adapted in the last 20 months. With the high vaccination rate in Singapore and more borders reopening for businesses and leisure travel, retailers are now more optimistic about the economy and more open to leverage technology to transform and seek new sales avenues amidst the crisis. Retailers with new retail concepts may also have the added advantage of lower rents as landlords seek to refresh their tenant mix to bring back shoppers and also attract new customers. Retailers are ready to put the worst behind them and spring into action to recover lost grounds. However, keeping up with technological changes and consumers' preferences will always be a challenge. While most retailers have adopted digital transformation in one form or another, they can certainly do more and better to improve the work processes and enable a more seamless shopping experience for customers through better systems integration. It is thus imperative that the industry is in sync with retail trends and constantly innovate to engage customers. Here at SRA, we strive to better assist and provide guidance to our members and the retail community to gain a broader perspective to accelerate business transformation, lead the retail community forward through a unified strategy, and identify suitable resources to support companies' business growth and manpower transformation. We pivoted to online training to continue with our mission to upskill the retail workforce. We also signed an MOU earlier this November with NTUC Learning Hub and E2I for this purpose. Come January 2022, SRA will lead some 25 retailers and government officials to New York to participate in the SRA NRF study mission, followed by store visits to learn and apply best practices when we return home. We will also help retailers venture into Dubai, Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia. We will continue to work closely with retailers and the government agencies to support the retailers in their digitalization journey. At SRA, we hope that retailers will take a positive view and mindset to living with the COVID-19 pandemic and stay resilient, and that is not all gloom and doom for the sector. With the emphasis on omni-channel sales, it's even more important now that continuous customer engagement and retention form an integral part of the business model. E-commerce and brick-and-mortar stores should not be on opposing ends, but ensure that the two platforms work in tandem. Retailers need to look beyond Singapore's shores to win new customers by internationalizing, either by establishing physical stores overseas or cross-border e-commerce to remain relevant and to grow the business. As we move towards living with the COVID-19 virus, retailers must be ever ready to adapt and respond to rapidly changing consumer behaviors and be prepared with business continuity plans to face uncertainties in the retail landscape. SRA is committed to further its cause and advance the initiatives under the retail ITM to help bring about greater value creation in the retail industry through digitalization, innovation, internationalization, and deepen the capabilities of the retail workforce for improved productivity and business growth. And this, we also believe very, very strongly in collaborating with agencies, government agencies, associations, to bring about a healthy growth of the economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rose. Shopping is everybody's favorite. So I'm sure the cash registers will be ringing nonstop in no time. Yeah. When it comes to numbers, which two numbers drive F&B owners and operators crazy? No prizes for guessing it right. It is 2 and 5. Can you imagine how disruptive it is when a 5 pax rule suddenly changed to a 2 pax rule? And then you pray you go back to 5. One moment is 5, the next moment it is 2. Like they say, flip-flop like roti prata. How can anyone operate in such an environment? To tell us more, let's welcome Edwin Fong, Executive Director of RAS. Edwin, please.
Good morning, everybody. Hi, my name is Edwin, and I am the Executive Director of the Restaurant Association of Singapore, RAS. Before I start, let me just express my heartfelt thanks to Soon Hua, the Chairperson of the PATA Singapore chapter, as well as the PATA Chair. Before we move forward with my sharing, if you allow me, I have prepared some slides to help guide us through this sharing. So just give me a second while I share my screen. Okay, I hope everybody can see my slide. Okay, so today I'll be sharing a little bit about how the Restaurant Association and our members have navigated through the last almost 2 years of COVID-19. Let's start. Before, just a little bit about RAS. We are the pioneer and largest F&B association in Singapore. The members that we have collectively run more than 5,000 outlets, which is about 72% of the total number of F&B and restaurant outlets in Singapore. And our members come from a good mix of all kinds of F&B models, from your anything from your kiosk players. These days we even say virtual brands, those in cloud kitchens, all the way to our fine dining. Some to our members who are doing fine dining concepts and all that. So these are our three mission statement, and I must say, mission number one and mission number three has been really we've been really doing this for the last 2 years, especially. Just to share a little bit for those people who are not very aware, these are our management committee members. In some other associations, you call them board members, you call them council members, just similar names, different names, but mean similar things. So as you can see from our management committee, they are quite well, they are quite diverse. Anything from big brands, multi-brands, multi-outlet players, to single outlet owner-operated members as well. So this gives us a good mix of the views of the industry, and each time we are we are asked to reflect and voice out the views of the F&B sector. With such diversity, it clearly helps us to offer a very accurate as well as balanced view of how the F&B sector is going on. Jumping straight into COVID-19. If some of you all recall, the first case of COVID-19 was actually reported in Singapore just 2 days before the Chinese New Year of 2020. So I must say, at that point of time, most of us were still quite happily going through with Chinese New Year for the 2020. But already cases have been happening both in Wuhan as well as already reaching our shores in Singapore. So this is really the start of a lot of the many things that has happened in the last 2 years of COVID-19. Then after that, I've just put together here some quick information of some of the start-stop that has happened. Really, the F&B industry has gone through a lot of start-stop, a lot of changes in the rules, and it is really challenging to get everybody, all the way from the bosses all the way down to the outlet crew, to be able to understand and therefore be able to enforce some of these rules that are required. So you can see it's actually quite a mirage of changes, and whatever you read in the papers about the fact that it's difficult even uh, for all the F&B operators and even for some consumers out there as well, to really keep track of what's going on and what are the current rules and all that. If you look at the last row here, I put in question marks because the journey has begun, but we don't know when it's going to end. That's why if you look at the title of this slide, it's a present tense, and it's something that we hope it will end soon, but at this stage, we have no visibility of when things are going to end. So really, it's been quite a tough, challenging 2 years for all the F&B operators, and we certainly hope that as consumers yourselves, let's continue to support this sector and be respectful and understanding when certain things cannot be done, certain restrictions need to be adhered to. So what has happened in 2020 and 2021? Really, I will just sum it up as this is really 2 years of adapting. Adapting to what? Adapting to all the changes and all the new things that are happening in the F&B, not just the F&B sector, but Singapore as a society, and even the rest of the world. So truly, what we have experienced in RAS or the bigger F&B community is really this adversity actually brought the F&B community together. You will see people, business owners are more willing to share, are more willing to come together to do certain things, help their business, help their manpower, help their staff. So really, the last 2 years, while there are not things, issues and things that are not so nice, uh, the silver lining is that we can see the community coming together a little bit tighter, a little bit stronger. So as we go over, as we look at what has happened over the last 2 years, really the first key thing that we recognize is all businesses, regarding whether you're F&B business or you are some retail business, service sector, shipbuilding, manufacturing, whatever it is, you've got to pivot your business very quickly. Pivot, this word pivot sounds like doesn't sound like a very nice word to use because it's a bit overused, but really the modality of the F&B service, how the service is being given, uh, is changing. It used to be a lot of dining in, a lot of high touch service, but increasingly, as the virus start to mutate, start to spread, the modality of the F&B business has really started to change. So really now you are starting to see even more takeaways, more deliveries, and in fact, as a community, I think we've started to become more homebound as well. So we are doing the cooking, we are following, looking out for YouTube channels to teach us how to do certain dishes and all that. And you will see that actually even some of the F&B brands, they have started to do some of this, what we call in our term productization of their items. So really taking what they used to serve at their outlets, doing R&D, make it into a product so that you can put it on the shelf and sell. Naturally, with that extended shelf life, then people can come and buy your products. You can create a new channel for revenue. All right. So really, number one is pivoting the business. Number two is really adapting to the changes, and not just the changes that is created by COVID-19, by the virus, but also the corresponding national policies that change. The policies need to change, need to respond accordingly to make sure that lives and livelihoods of our businesses, our F&B businesses, are all protected. And like what I shared in the earlier slide, there are so many changes. So really, the the learning from the last 2 years is businesses really just have to adapt to changes, be very fast about it. You can complain, but I think that really doesn't get you very far because policies are not going to change, the new legislation are not going to change overnight. When it happens, the businesses just have to adapt. And I think one of the many good things that we saw within the F&B businesses, that the entire F&B company, from the last man on the ground, your part-timers, to your kitchen crew, your service crew, or even your office staff, everybody really came together to try and to ensure that the business continue to run nicely. The third point I have on this slide is really and a little bit more forward-looking from 2022, second half of 2021, and even 2022 onwards. Is really businesses have to really start to imagine how the future looks like. Future-proofing your business, making sure that you adapt, you redesign, or you adapt your business such that it also coincides with the consumer preferences as we move forward. The last 2 years have clearly shown us that working from home is not impossible. A lot of businesses have been doing that. A lot of offices have been doing that. So really, F&B businesses, or even all kinds of service-related businesses, we've got to really think about how to pivot the business, how to change the business model a little bit, how to make sure that your business can continue to survive in the midst of the new normal. It is still evolving, I must say, the new normal, whether is it working from home or even not being able to have so many social gatherings or so many social gatherings as often as we used to have. So really, businesses need to reimagine the future and make sure that they are ready. I just wanted to end my short sharing with a little quote that I've been following for the last many years, which is what one of my favorite basketball players in the 90s, and he said this at one of his award acceptance speech, because really there is no such thing as cannot be done. I think Adidas has a slogan that says impossible is nothing. It's very similar to this. So never say never, because limits like fears are often just an illusion. And with that, I thank you for your time. I thank you for your attention. And if you would like to find out more about what RAS does and all the different activities and the latest on the F&B sector's news, please scan these QR codes on our various social media platforms to get more information of what we do at RAS. So thank you very much, and I'll hand over the time to the next presenter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Edwin. Please tell your members we are truly sympathetic, and we thank them for continuing to serve us good food despite all the challenges. And also, we must not forget to extend our support to our hawkers too. Yeah. Now, Singapore is Asia's top convention city. Who are the people who play such an important role in ensuring that we continue to stay the preferred choice when it comes to MICE and events? They are the members of SASIOS. Under COVID restrictions, staying home and staying safe is the order of the day. But for MICE and events, it's actually the opposite. Let's meet, and preferably in big numbers too. Now, how is this going to work? To tell us how SASIOS members and the meetings industry relentlessly innovate and pivot during this crisis, let's welcome Dylan Sharma, Vice President, Advocacy and Communications of SASIOS.
Good morning. My name is Dylan Sharma, and on behalf of SASIOS, thank you very much for having us this morning at the Singapore Tourism United Forum. Today, it will be our honor and privilege to share with you SASIOS' perspective and perception on where we have been and where we are going. Prior to that, please allow me a few short words of introduction of myself as well as the association that I represent. My name is Dylan Sharma, and I am the director and co-founder of Tricom Events, a local homegrown event agency focusing on high-level business events. I've been in this industry for more than 20 years now, and that has also meant that I've seen a fair share of crises over the last 2 decades: 9/11, SARS, and the global financial crisis, to name but 3. More importantly, I've been actively involved in SASIOS for the last few years, and in particular, the conversations about the resumption of large-scale business events in Singapore since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. I've also co-led the hybridization segment of the Event Industry Resilience Roadmap, and I will share greater details of this in the next few slides. Let me also share with you more about SASIOS, which in full stands for the Singapore Association of Conventions and Exhibitions Organisers and Suppliers. We have been in business since 1979 and are the national trade association of the MICE and event industry here in Singapore. For the last 42 years, in everything we do, SASIOS aims to advance the MICE and events community through serving and connecting industry players, driving initiatives that empower businesses, and leading advocacy efforts at industry and national levels. We work closely with various government bodies, in particular the Singapore Tourism Board and Enterprise Singapore, as well as numerous industry players, tertiary institutes, as well as regional and global industry associations. And all this really to address key challenges and create new opportunities for the MICE and events industry and its vast ecosystem. More than that, armed with the mission to empower the industry through the 3 core pillars of SASIOS, namely community, commerce, and capacity, SASIOS has been relentless as the voice of impact for our industry. And the need for us to advocate and strengthen the industry voice has never been more critical than today, arising out of the COVID-19 pandemic. Let me share with you a very brief update on the current status of the MICE industry. Pre-pandemic, the MICE industry was thriving. It was a key driver and contributor to the Singapore economy, supporting over 34,000 jobs and contributing almost $4 billion to the Singapore's GDP. This is almost 1%. But more important than that, the MICE industry has always been a catalyst and a multiplier. When Singapore hosts large-scale business events, conferences, conventions, trade shows, or other similar business events, this really has broader implications on the tourism and hospitality sectors, with spillover effects that are far and wide, including revenue boosts to hotels, attractions, retail, and F&B establishments. So I think it's critical to emphasize that MICE has always been a catalyst and a multiplier for the Singapore economy at large. However, that all changed in the early days of 2020. I recall when Singapore went to DORSCON Orange in February 2020, many industry players shared stories of how businesses had to pivot, had to adapt, arising out of cancellation and postponement of events from the very next day. This was devastating for our industry, as the MICE industry was brought to a standstill when the pandemic hit our shores. The once brimming and buzzing MICE venues that our communities gathered in and that business relationships and collaborations were forged were left empty for the first time in recent memories. Other members of the MICE ecosystem were left, for lack of a better word, clueless and uncertain how to navigate the great uncertainty arising out of the COVID-19 pandemic. Despite the unprecedented crisis, the MICE industry was determined to do our part in our nation's fight against the pandemic. To give just one example, Singapore Expo was very quickly and at very short notice converted into a COVID-19 community care facility. Other members of the MICE ecosystem also stepped up, such as tentage providers or other logistical service providers, to supply and support infrastructure in our fight against COVID-19. 2020 was really a standstill, as I think all of us grappled with the unknown. But 2021, we were hopeful that as Singapore controlled the pandemic, it was going to be a year of recovery and return to some form of normalcy. And it certainly looked that way in the first half of 2021, especially when reports by the International Air Transport Association, IATA, predicted that overseas travel would resume from the second half of 2021. Alas, this was not to be. The best laid plans of men and mice, no pun intended, were very quickly changed. Our hopes were extinguished by news of various clusters, small and large, as well as the Delta variant on a global scale. This meant the unfortunate restricting and curtailing of large-scale gatherings in line with Phase 2 heightened alert in Singapore. And I think from May 2021 and for the next few months thereafter, it can only be described as a seesaw or a yo-yo of uncertainty as regulations were changed, ultimately necessary in line with rising cases. The MICE industry was decimated once again by this false dawn, but we were not deterred. The roadmap that we had developed was critical in our optimism moving forward, and we were determined to stay the course. This resulted in an uptick in business events in the last quarter of 2021. Notable events include the Bloomberg New Economy Forum, as well as the Milken Asia Summit, taking place in November, just last month. And this brings us to a certain degree of hopefulness and optimism in 2022, that the good work that we have done in the last quarter of 2021 can really be a stepping stone as we move forward into adjusting to COVID as an endemic in Singapore. The recent aforementioned events, such as the Bloomberg Forum and the Milken Summit, really give us added impetus that events are a successful and safe environment, and the safety and well-being of all attendees will always remain our number one priority. It is with a certain degree of comfort that I say that there have been no known cases of clusters at MICE events or arising out of MICE events since the pandemic began. And this is especially so knowing that there have been more than 200 pilot business events that have taken place in Singapore over the last 18 months. The Omicron variant has unfortunately come at a very ill-opportune time, but nonetheless, the industry remains confident of the safe and progressive resumption of more large-scale events in 2022 as we continue our transition towards COVID as an endemic state. Arising from this darkness, there's also some light. And there have been some positive takeaways that we as an industry would like to share with you. And if I may call it such, the mother or mothership of all these positive takeaways was really the launch of the Event Industry Resilience Roadmap in October 2020, which we launched in partnership with both STB as well as ESG. Let me share with you greater details of how this came to be. In the very early days of the pandemic, when we were still in circuit breaker, SASIOS convened a group of like-minded industry peers to come together to calibrate and adjust and to forecast what will be the new normal for our industry moving forward, as we very soon realized that the old way of doing business was no longer going to be the new way of doing business. Industry players came together, and for the first time, competitors became collaborators. And the final outcome of this was the Event Industry Resilience Roadmap. This served as an operational handbook for MICE enterprises to develop their agility and build resilience for a post-COVID world. It also gave an overview into the key players within the Singapore MICE ecosystem, as well as the key actors within this ecosystem. Importantly, the Industry Resilience Roadmap also allowed us to work closely with the government to operationalize and testbed pilot events, as well as safe management measures, and to share best practices on hybrid events, which at that time was still very much an uncertain entity. There are 5 things in particular that I think we can be most proud of in the last 18 months. Let me share this with you. First off, hybridization. Like many other industries, the pandemic accelerated the digitalization of the MICE industry. The circuit breakers that we saw in Singapore, as well as lockdowns internationally, saw what can only be described as the greatest migration of humanity online ever. With restrictions such as capacity limits, safe distancing measures, curtailing of large-scale business events, the MICE players and industry had no choice but to pivot to digital and hybrid events. In many ways, we can say that online became our lifeline. We all recognize that we can never replace the high energy and the serendipity that can only occur at a physical event. But we also acknowledge that digitalization and hybrid events have empowered us to reach out to and engage to larger audiences from around the world, something that we were not able to do at physical-only events pre-pandemic. The second thing that I think is a positive outcome for SASIOS is the capacity and capability building that the industry undertook. This was challenging, but ultimately necessary. The need to reskill and upskill was never more evident as we moved online, and we had to embrace new forms and business realities, including broadcast capability, cybersecurity, data protection, amongst many other challenges that now become commonplace for a MICE and event practitioner. The third thing that I think we're most proud of is how we've piloted and implemented best-in-class standards. Let me take your mind back to just more than a year ago in October 2020, when the first large-scale gathering of a MICE event took place in Singapore at the Singapore International Energy Week in October 2020. This was the first gathering of 250 people, and was also the first event which pioneered antigen rapid testing, a technology or a form of pre-event testing that we now take as very much as commonplace across various events. A year later, through the ebbs and the flows, through the challenges and the difficulties, through the vaccinated travel lanes and through the vaccinated differentiated safe management measures, I think our industry is better for piloting and implementing best-in-class standards. The top line change today is a capacity of up to 1,000 pax at any one time in an event. We have evolved and we will continue to do so. The fourth key positive takeaway is really how we have cemented safety and hygiene as a value proposition for Singapore. These have always been some of our key strengths, but I think more importantly, through the pandemic, the need for safety measures, the need for highest degree of hygiene standardizations have never been more important. And together with the Singapore Tourism Board, we launched the Safe Event Certification in April 2021. This first-of-a-kind certification program is based on the checklist derived from technical reference TR84, which is also called Safe Event Management for the MICE and Events Industry. This was developed in close partnership with the Singapore Standards Council, overseen by Enterprise Singapore. And lastly, the positive takeaway that I think we can be most proud of is how the industry and the broader industry has come together as one. The pandemic has not only galvanized the whole MICE industry to come together, like I mentioned earlier, how competitors became collaborators, but it also allowed us to showcase our unity, our resilience, and our agility. It has brought together, strengthened, and widened the entire MICE ecosystem. But we also take great pride in how it has brought different players in adjacent industries together to collaborate, to share best practices as we all seek to emerge stronger together. And today's forum is really a testament to that, of how different national trade associations are coming together to share how they have adjusted and evolved and learned from the pandemic so that we all can take these learnings on board. The demand for MICE remains strong moving to 2022 and 2023. This arises from pent-up demand, not just from business travelers, but also from businesses. Of all scales and sizes, MNCs, SMEs, think tanks, amongst others, all yearn for the return of business events, for face-to-face events, because nothing beats the exchange of a handshake or looking somebody in the eye. This pipeline of events in Singapore for 2022 and beyond really is a strong testament to Singapore's good standing and reputation as a safe, innovative, and trusted business destination. But what lies ahead? And moving to 2022, what do we expect? Is the MICE industry ready for the steps ahead? To look forward, it is sometimes important to look back. And let me share this photograph with you. This photograph was taken at the Singapore Fintech Festival in November 2019, one of the largest events that took place in Singapore prior to the pandemic hitting, and also one of the last events to take place in Singapore. Look at the crowd. Look at the size of the crowd. You can almost feel the excitement and feel the enthusiasm. And once we get back to an event that can be encapsulated in a photograph like this, we know that we are back to full normalcy and the resumption of large-scale business events. And to do this, the MICE industry and SASIOS stands ready. As I mentioned earlier, we take great comfort as well as optimism that there be no known clusters at all pilot events in the last 1 year, more than 200 of them. And long may this continue as we seek to ensure that events are a safe and controlled environment for business gatherings to take place. The recent high-profile events such as the Bloomberg Forum, as well as the Milken CEO Summit, really underscore and validates that large-scale events can be held safely. This is in tandem with our top priority of safety and hygiene standards never being compromised, and the Safe Event Certification that I mentioned earlier ensures that we continuously adhere to the highest standards of hygiene and safe management measures. To date, more than 60 companies have been certified so far, and many more are in the pipeline. It's also comforting to note that technology has really driven our industry forward. Things such as contactless registration were unheard of prior to the pandemic, but today, together with elements like contact tracing, have been tested and rolled out at large-scale pilot events. This gives us greater cause for confidence and optimism that not only are we ready to come out of this pandemic as we move into a state of endemicity, but also that the MICE industry is ready to deal with whatever curveballs that the world may throw at us. And with that, I would like to say thank you very much to the organisers for having SASIOS here to share our thoughts and our perspectives on where we are. And I'll be glad to take questions in the Q&A segment that follows later. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dylan. with SASIOS and STB working hand in hand, Singapore will stay in pole position for sure. Yeah. Last but certainly not least is an update from SRO, Singapore River One. Now, some of us may not be very familiar with SRO, but we certainly know what Singapore River is all about. SRO is the place manager of the Singapore River Precinct, which includes Boat Quay, Clarke Quay, and Robertson Quay. Let us get Michelle Koh, Executive Director, SRO, to tell us more.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Sunhua, for inviting Singapore River One to give this brief summary on what's been happening over at our end. So without further ado, let me give you some context about what Singapore River represents and who we represent. So we are a private sector-led partnership charged with the responsibility of place management, marketing, as well as enhancement of Singapore River. A lot of you may think Singapore River is just Boat Quay, but let me just quickly share that Singapore River actually is the full 3.2 km stretch, which comprise not only Boat Quay, Clarke Quay, as well as Robertson Quay. So quickly, Boat Quay is at the peripheral of the financial district. Clarke Quay is entertainment central, and Robertson Quay has many mixed developments as well as hotels over there. So you can imagine during the pandemic, over these 2 years, we've been hugely affected. One thing was everybody was encouraged to work from home, so nobody was in the offices, and that affected Boat Quay a lot. Secondly, travel borders were closed. Foreign visitors were not encouraged to travel. So again, businesses that relied heavily on tourists were also strongly affected. Then we had the recent sitting for only 2 pax. That means every restaurant had fewer covers. So this again all culminated to many issues on the ground. So you can see for F&B, they were in dire straits. They resorted to touting. The street closure was disrupted over at Circular Road. So typically, we would have it on every Friday, Saturday evenings. But because of the pandemic and crowds were discouraged to cluster together, this was quickly stopped. Hotels were no longer hotels. They double up as quarantine facilities. So some of the GMs that I spoke to, they felt that it's a very strange world that they are residing in, because they are no longer hotel GMs, but quarantine officers, making sure that their staff and the guests that come in are all safe. Lastly, I show you the picture of Zouk. They, as well as the rest of the nightlife industry, has been greatly hit. They were not allowed to operate. So some that could pivot, they pivoted, like Zouk. They held spin sessions, spin classes. They also opened some of the areas for omakase sessions as well. So yes, we are really living in strange times. But I think with every pandemic, there would be a light in the tunnel. So here are some of our positive takeaways. We took this opportunity to rally our members together, and we launched what we call the SG River Vouchers. And these vouchers could be spent along the various participating outlets along the 3 keys. And we launched about 200,000 worth of vouchers throughout this campaign. And here are some stats. We saw a spend of average fee about over $800. And this went on to garner a total revenue of close to 130,000. So through word of mouth marketing, and we didn't have to spend much in paid marketing. these vouchers were sold out within 10 days. Singapore River has always believed in promoting our 3 keys to the local visitors. And for the first time, we could work with Monster Day Tour because they had time for us. Previously they were more busy with the overseas guests. And we are very happy for this collaboration, and it's already, we've done 3 editions, and we hope that now that the stabilization phase is almost over, we could bring back the 4th edition. So this tour has attracted over close to 200 participants. And we are glad to know that people are enjoying this tour, both for the heritage side as well as sharing the good eats along Singapore River. We also took this opportunity to harness the Zoom technology to host various webinars. Not everything was done by us. We were fortunate enough to collaborate with SASIOS and SNBA to host these webinars. So our members, both the landlords and the operators, could enjoy receiving knowledge and information about the various topics, like the rights and obligations of landlords and operators under the Temporary Measures Act, and sharing with the operators on what were the various training subsidies and programs that were available during this period. Next, we were also fortunate enough to invite Mr. Jimmy Yang, who is the creative director of the Lang Kwai Fong Group, to share about his take on the nightlife that is, in Hong Kong, and how they deal and grapple with the pandemic. So I think this extensive sharing session benefited our operators, who understood that we are not alone. Everybody is in the same boat, and we learned from each other how we could be more responsible about taking care of the measures more seriously and making sure that our guests are safe during this period. Next, we invited Mr. Robin Abad Okubilo, who's the director of the Shared Spaces program at San Francisco Mayor's Office. This was also very well attended with close to 40 attendees. And we learned more from our counterpart in San Francisco about the usage of outdoor sitting areas during this pandemic period. So this was an opportunity for us to see how we could work with the government to look at reopening our streets again, and see whether we could moderately approach the closure of streets in future. Our future plans are very exciting, and I am pleased to share some of them here. So we are taking this opportunity to rethink about the vision for Boat Quay. This is a good time to relook at the positioning and image of Boat Quay by working alongside with the government agencies and the landlords. Next, Clarke Quay's streetscape will be changing in 2025 with the introduction of the Canning Hill Piers, which is an integrated project by City Developments Limited and Capital Land Development. That will not only include the hotel, service, apartment development, as well as the mall. Next, we have NParks, who has incorporated the Singapore River Park Connector as part of their round island route. I think with this inclusion, we will see active Singaporeans or visitors who's either cycling or walking to come through our front doors, and we welcome them. And this should be exciting times for the operators to offer breakfast and takeaways for the ones who are coming through the Singapore River Park Connector. This is a 2.4 km stretch, and we are anticipating that it will be opened within the first quarter of 2021. So maybe to end off, I'd like to quote Mr. Wong Soon Hwa, Chairman of the PATA Singapore chapter, and of PATA, that we should come together to share, learn, and collaborate. It is time for solidarity and unity. As industry sectors, we must not operate in silos. Only by collectively working as an ecosystem can we truly harness the power of one. I truly feel that this is a statement that resonates with me, and I think with what we have experienced over the past 2 years, we have seen evidence of this collaborative relationship, and we hope that we can leverage off each other and grow strength to strength in the coming years. With that, I thank you.
Many thanks, Michelle. We miss our drinks and can't wait for the return of nightlife. Now, the final item in our forum today is the panel session 2. Now, yesterday, we had an interactive and insightful session. And today, we'll learn more from our panelists. Michael Goh from Dream Cruises extends his apologies for not being able to join the panel today, as he has to attend a very important meeting. Now, let us welcome our moderator, Karen Yu, Group Editor of TTG. The floor is yours, Karen.
Thank you, Sun Hua, and thank you to everyone who has joined us this morning. Perhaps some of you have also been with us yesterday's session. Maybe some of you are new. So I'll just give a quick update on what has happened. So we heard earlier from each association representative who provided us with a peek into what their association and members have done to ride through this year. And here on, we'll focus on the way forward, how they expect 2022 to pan out, how they are preparing for what may come in Singapore's travel and tourism scene. If you're just joining us now, allow me to get you acquainted with our panelists. We have Royston Lim, who is the Manager at Agency Sales with Singapore Airlines. Rose Tong, who is the Executive Director of the Singapore Retailers Association. Edwin Fong, Executive Director with the Restaurant Association of Singapore. Dylan Sharma, Vice President, Advocacy and Communications with the SASIO, Singapore Association of Convention and Exhibition Organisers and Suppliers. And then we have Michelle Koh, Executive Director of Singapore River One. Before we begin, I'd like to bring up a poll to better understand the profile of the audience we have with us today, just in case you are welcoming individuals who are new, who were unable to join us yesterday. Kenneth, can you please pull up the first poll? So can you just tell us, what your business is most reliant on, Singapore inbound, Singapore outbound, or Singapore residents? While you're doing that, I'd just like to remind you that we take questions from the audience. So if you have questions for our speakers, you can just put your questions into the Q&A box. If some of you have problems typing into the Q&A box, it's okay, you put it in the chat and I'll check that as well. Okay, majority of our audience today are reliant on Singapore inbound. We can end the poll, Kenneth. Thank you so much. Okay. All right, so let's start with the first question for today's panel. So in yesterday's panel session, we discussed how the easing of travel with measures has helped to impact business. And we ran an audience poll to find out how the Singapore vaccinated travel lanes have impacted the business. So here's a quick recap of the results. 52% said the VTLs have facilitated some business recovery, 28% said no impact, and a small 6.7% said the VTLs have facilitated substantial business recovery. So now I'd like to ask our panelists, what in your opinion is needed to speed up business recovery for Singapore's travel, tourism and hospitality industry? Maybe we can start with Dylan.
Thank you, Karen, for having us here today and to share our perspectives. Very good question. I think we have all seen an uptick in business in the last few weeks and months, and an uptick in optimism as well with the VTLs. But I think what the industry and hearing the sharings of many of the other associations, I think we all share a common lament and a common desire. And I think what we really need more than anything else are, and if I may alliterate this, would be the C's. So we need a certainty of calibration of the rules, and we need a consistency in the conviction in which we approach the roadmap moving forward. Let me explain this a little bit more. The certainty of calibrations rather. I think we, in many associations, including SASIOS as well as various others, have taken extreme measures to educate and inform our members as well as the public at large on what is needed. And this effectively forms a form or a guide, a roadmap. Building on this roadmap, I think what we really need, and I think Edwin shared this very clearly with the stop-start slide that he had earlier, we need a certain conviction that we are on the right track. We need a certain roadmap for all of us to adhere to and to follow vaccination guidelines. I think many of us were very optimistic earlier this year when we were told National Day is the guideline or the marker where we will have 80% vaccinated and, we're going to be back in business. But since then, there have been a few false dawns, I think, as Edwin's slide shows as well for the stop-start. But I think more importantly, even with the Omicron variant, we still need to have that certainty of our calibrations of how we adjust to COVID-19. The second element of it is really the consistency of conviction. If we want to truly be in a state of endemicity, then I think we all agree that we need to press ahead with this. There still are, as from today's sharings, I think inconsistencies across industries, but we all seek to be consistent. We all seek to have full conviction that these consistencies apply across industries, not just for selected industries. So really, to answer the question, I would say certainty and consistency of conviction.
Right. Okay. Maybe Rose can take the question next. What I'm asking is, in your opinion, what is needed to speed up business recovery for Singapore's travel, tourism, and hospitality industry? What must happen?
Well, I guess maybe the first thing to do is really for, maybe the MTF or the government to not react with a knee-jerk reaction to, the Omicron right now, etc. And to really, stay firm in, ensuring that the borders remain open, but of course, taking a more cautious approach in perhaps testing, etc., but without inconveniencing travelers. The opening is, the borders opening is one, but the opening relaxation of SMM rules are very important to ensure that visitors who actually come into Singapore can enjoy themselves. I mean, who will want to come to a country whereby it is actually far more restrictive than their own home country? Yeah. So if you still have a limited to 5, you cannot dine more than with 5, etc. You can't come in here and have a party and enjoy with other friends. So I think that would be quite a challenge. So I guess maybe SMM rules needs to be relaxed a little bit more. And I think STB could do perhaps pump in a lot more resources, to promoting, the different attractions that we have, the different dining features, and even the shopping. And maybe perhaps, alongside with, developing just purely the advertising, is to actually collaborate and work with, the retail industry, the F&B industry, the Singapore River One, OBA and all, to actually put together digital vouchers, that retailers, F&B operators will be happy, to offer for redemption, to encourage, visitorship as well as spending. I mean, we need to drive sales because, if you came in here and don't really spend money, then actually, the whole idea behind that is kind of like lost. Yeah.
That's right. Michelle, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think definitely retail needs to be one of the industries that the government need to promote, and naturally nightlife should be the other sector. I think Rose has hit the nail by suggesting that who wants to come to a country that's more restrictive than their own. And I think nightlife definitely creates the impetus of the energy that the country gives back to their guests. And right now, without any music and everybody's just another F&B outlet, there's no differential factor, and that's very worrying. So I think on behalf of Singapore nightlife, Business Association, we would like to appeal to the government agencies to relook at the operating hours and perhaps relax on the entertainment factor as well. Thank you.
Okay. How about you, Edwin? What are your thoughts?
Thanks, Karen. I think I concur with what most of the sharings here as well, and I just like to also take this chance to also share. And I think there's been quite a lot of reports lately from WTO and all the medical related reports where it seems to indicate that the Omicron virus is a little bit more infectious, but I think less deadly. So I think there must be a certain confidence, and together with vaccination, I think as a society we are probably more ready to do what is necessary to go towards endemic. But I must also mention that at the end of the day, I think while we can contain ourselves in Singapore, there is a lot of people coming in, and as a society we are like the first question, the first poll, right? We are quite reliant on visitorships, tourism, and all that. So really, I think some of the measures. I'm not trying to say that the government is doing everything, all the right things, but I'm saying that we need to do the tests, we need to do the vaccination, and we need to do the testing. So that I think the testing bit will need to come in, and I'm glad to see that the last few days, the ART test kits, the price of the ART test kits have started coming down. 2 months ago, when I saw that CNA article where Steve Chia was in Germany, and then he was saying that the test kits in Germany are $1.50. I'm like, what the hell happened in Singapore? Why can't we have something that is not at $7-8? So now
It's
it's
now
coming down.
$5.95.
Yeah, so yesterday I saw it at one of the machines, right? One of the vending machines was $5.95 or something like that. So that's a good sign, and hopefully that comes down a little bit. And we've got to do this, and we've got to find a way to encourage more people to do this, more visitors to do this as well, so that we actually, what is missing today is business confidence, or confidence of consumers to go out and spend and do all that. And I think when it comes to maybe more from a F&B perspective, I think that the understanding of customers need to really be there. There are concepts where you sit down a little bit longer, you enjoy yourself, chill away and all that. But there are concepts where the business owners requires a certain turn, a certain table turn.
Yeah.
So once you're done, give other people a chance to come in, because 1 meter distancing within an outlet is not very funny. It's not helpful for sales and all that. So be a bit more understanding. Allow the businesses, because at the end of the day, I think Rose mentioned it right as well. We need to drive the sales. Businesses need to drive the sales, and if we start, not allowing that to happen, if we allow start stop, roti prata, or 2 steps forward, 3 steps, whatever you call it,
Cha-cha.
if we start doing some of these things, then we will probably start losing some of our heritage brands, some of our goods our way, and things like that. So that's the thing about F&B.
Okay, and Royston, do you have anything to comment on this? What do you think is needed for Singapore to speed up business recovery?
Actually, I actually echo what Edwin has mentioned. In fact, for the aviation industry, one of the most significant factor is actually vaccination rates. In fact, for Singapore, we have seen that Singapore has one of the highest vaccination rate, and it actually underpins the country's strategy to recover from the pandemic. And we actually began to see recovery in 2021 with rising global vaccination rates and gradual reopening of borders. And we all know that vaccination not only reduces the risk of spread in the community, it actually gives confidence to our customers in terms of our operation. So I think one main factors that we really need to look at, which is not really within our control, because we're talking about global vaccination rates. So at least from airline perspective, Singapore Airlines have one of the highest take-up rates in terms of the vaccination. In fact, our SIA and Scoot were among the first airlines to operate flights with fully vaccinated pilots and cabin crew. And as of today, all our SIA and Scoot flights are operated with fully vaccinated pilots and cabin crew. I think that is one of, I think for the industry, whether is it for aviation, for travel, for hospitality, vaccination rate will give confidence to our consumers. And that's why I think that would be one of the main factor. Yeah.
Okay, good. That's a very interesting question, and I agree with this. So Eileen Kim has asked, can local entertainment outlets open with the same MICE safety and hygiene standards in place? So, you know, Dylan, you spoke also about how our SMM measures have been really effective in ensuring that business events have resumed are really safe operations, and there were very low or no incidents of infections. Can the same measures be adopted by local entertainment? Michelle, what do you think?
Yeah, certainly. I think we have very responsible F&B outlets and club operators. I think the question is, don't brand the blunt instrument of punishment across the entire industry just because of a few bad eggs.
Right.
I'm sure Edwin will agree with me. You know, certainly not the entire industry should be punished just because some of the operators are very opportunistic and break the law. And certainly the F&B industry, the nightlife industry needs a lot of boost. And with the ART test kits coming down, I think we can all be very moderate in reopening the doors to these industries and make sure that it's safe for everybody.
Okay. Kenneth, can you bring up a second poll for the audience? So I'd like you to tell us, do you expect Singapore's top arrival markets to change in the near-term travel resumption? So yesterday there was a question about Singapore's reliance on the China market, because China is still not opening up to international travel yet without their heavily regulated return requirements. And Nata spoke about how it requires substantial effort for companies that were once reliant on Chinese businesses to make that change. Although some have been able to make changes to their business operations throughout the pandemic when the Chinese market was absent. So here we have, okay, let's share the results. We have 45% of our respondents saying that yes, top arrivals market could change. 26 saying no, and the rest are unsure. Yeah, I guess it's difficult to project forward. So let's discuss these results, my panelists. Do you expect Singapore's top arrival markets to change post-pandemic? And how ready are your businesses here ready for that change? Rose, perhaps you want to take that?
Sorry, would you like to repeat the question?
Yes. Okay. Do you expect Singapore's top arrival markets to change post-pandemic? And how ready are retail businesses here ready for that change?
I think the top arrivals have always been a fight between China and Indonesia. I like to think that China, would be hungry, having been kept, indoors or in-house, for the past 2 years. But having said that, I think they are probably looking at a place in which they can actually experience better services, more products and stuff like that. And if I have that chance, I think I will probably go to other countries, which will give me the sand, the sea, the sun, resorts and everything else. Plus the conveniences, plus all the conveniences. And I think other countries are relaxing far more. So I think that's where I think we need to be cautious so that we do not actually lose that market share or the probability of that. Yeah, so I think in terms of who we should be attracting, I'm not too sure. At this point in time, it looks like Singapore isn't so as attractive. I'm a bit I think the retail industries are actually quite concerned. Yeah.
Edwin, what are your thoughts, Edwin?
We're talking about visitor-ships, or we're talking
Yeah,
about workers?
visitor arrivals.
Visitor arrivals. I
Yeah.
think at the end of the day, a little bit difficult for us to predict what's going to happen, because as much as we have a little bit of influence in terms of what we can, the policies in Singapore, actually out there is anybody's guess. So
Mhm.
we see some countries being a little bit tighter. There's still have so-called zero COVID policies and all that, but there are many countries who are taking a different approach already. So I think everybody sees the need, or most countries sees the need of movement, movement and all that. But really, it's probably even too early to say. If you look at the VTL numbers, I think part of the idea, the concept behind VTL is really for workers to come in, and some of the service related sectors that we are part of here. I think there's a fair bit of reliance on these workers from abroad. So we need that to happen. We need some of them to have the chance to go home, visit their families and all that. And hopefully that we be able to keep the spirits up. And I think, like what I said earlier, besides the confidence of spending, I think there are a lot of mental issues, to put it very broadly. There are a lot of mental issues that the society is facing right now. So we need to be able to manage some of these with breaks and whatever you call it.
Okay. Dylan, in the space of MICE, Singapore's business events are known to be the hub for attracting Southeast Asian attendees, trade partners. Now that a lot of the Southeast Asian markets are still quite cautious with their border reopenings, do you think that would affect Singapore's effectiveness as a place for international businesses to attract Asian buyers?
I think that's definitely a key consideration and a key concern for the MICE industry. Southeast Asia is a very big marketplace. And if you look at, for example, trade shows, a large bulk of trade show participants and exhibitors are really SMEs from the region who use a MICE trade show as a platform, as an opportunity to sell their goods and services. In the absence of a liberalization of travel from Southeast Asia, I think we will see some segments of the industry, in particular trade shows, very badly hit. I think it's slightly different for high-level business conferences, which tend to bring in a far more international crowd. So if you look at the example of the recent, let's say, Bloomberg New Economy Forum, or the planned World Economic Forum earlier this year that was unfortunately canned, I think those bring in a very different kind of audience. So the MICE sector is diverse. I think for business conferences, the curtailment or restrictions placed on Southeast Asian economies will not play that big a part. It's a case of curation of better quality of attendees and delegates and speakers. But undeniably, for the trade show segment in particular, we're very reliant on the Southeast Asian marketplace to be open for business.
Okay. Kenneth, can you pull up the third poll? So earlier, our panelists were talking about things that must happen to enable Singapore to recover quickly. So now I would like the audience to tell me, what are you most concerned about in relation to Singapore's travel, tourism, and hospitality business recovery? So you can only make one choice, the one that keeps you up at night. Have a look at the options as well, my panelists, because we could also discuss this after. Uncertainty is rising very fast. Uncertainty in travel restrictions, that was also something that was suggested by our panelists. They need more, they've asked for more certainty in travel restrictions so that travelers have more confidence to travel. People have more confidence to come out. Yeah, so uncertainty in travel restrictions imposed by either Singapore or other governments, that is taking a lot of responses actually. In a while, I'll share the results with everyone, yeah. Okay, it seems that responses have tapered off. Kenneth, you want to, share results? Okay, so uncertainty in travel restrictions imposed by either Singapore or other governments, 74%. And it really shows how dependent Singapore is on how other country governments are responding to the pandemic and its various variants. It's not new. I mean, this was also mentioned earlier during our earlier question. Yeah. Threat of new variants, I think this will continue to happen. I mean, we have the scientists coming up to say that the Omicron will not be the last new variant that we will experience. So we will need to learn from Omicron to see how we could respond best to new variants in future. Loss of tourism talents amid a crisis. This is also something that's worth discussing. Okay, let's stop sharing that. I have a question for Michelle. The industry will not revert to pre-COVID times. What is your vision of Singapore's travel, tourism, and hospitality future?
So if I were to crystal ball gaze, I anticipate travel groups will be more intimate, will be smaller, maybe targeted more to the well-heeled and well-traveled, so they'll be more discerning. I anticipate like private transfers, more curated experiences, be it F&B or in their attraction experience. This is my take. So I'm happy to hear what the other panelists' thoughts are.
There was actually a study conducted by the ILTM Organisers with a research firm that actually said that the high net worth people will be among the first segment of the community to resume traveling. Firstly, because they have the money, they have the freedom of managing their own time, so they can deal with quarantines if or should those happen suddenly. So you're not far off the crystal ball gazing there. Dylan, would you like to crystal ball gaze as well on the my side of things?
Absolutely. I think I do agree that it's more smaller group travel. I don't think we expect corporate travel to resume just yet to what it was in yesteryear. But more importantly, I think the industry needs to calibrate itself to be more geared towards local consumption and demand. And I think we can learn a thing or two from our colleagues at the hotel associations. Who would have thought pre-pandemic that staycations in itself would be a lifeline for the hotel industry in the absence of foreign visitors? But try booking any hotel this month and good luck to you.
Cruises are also up too as well.
That's right. And granted, this might be a peak season, but I think there still has been a re-engagement of the domestic audience. And I think that's what we expect as a starting line for the MICE industry to really re-engage with the domestic audience. Unfortunately, we don't have very much of a hinterland, but I think that the getting people out, getting the buying behavior different, getting the engagement levels up is really what's important to create a solid base of domestic consumption. And thereafter, topping it up with a specially or curated list of overseas attendees pending restrictions or the liberalization of restrictions. So where they can come in from, then target those economies and markets as well. There's some things that I think we all have to recognize are beyond our control. The uncertainty of reopening in countries or restrictions placed by countries who might be protectionist or acting in their own self-interest. It's not something that none of our industries can control, but what we can control is working within the regulations, working within the broad parameters of where people can fly in from, and making concerted efforts to target those specific markets to be the cherry on the cake for the domestic consumption as well.
Royston, would you like to crystal ball gaze as well? How do you think air travel perhaps could change post-pandemic?
Well, I think I will differ a bit from the panelists, because at the end of the day, the fundamental importance of air travel, whether is it for business or leisure, remains unchanged. And air travel is still the most effective way to bridge long distances. It brings family, friends, and business associates together and has direct impact on economic growth. More importantly, we have seen how air travel has facilitated the reunion of families that were separated during the pandemic. And from airline perspective, we are always delighted to be able to help our customer reconnect with their loved ones, go on their long-awaited holidays, or travel for business to take advantage during this pandemic. So from an airline perspective, perspective, I would say, yeah, we definitely hope that it's not just domestic. Otherwise, I mean, just like what we mentioned, there isn't any hinterland for Singapore. I mean, there's no domestic market for airline. So, well, we definitely hope that this importance of business or leisure travel continues in 2022.
Okay. Edwin, I'd like to call for attention. You mentioned earlier that the challenging circumstances will impact the heritage F&B operators. Are the challenging circumstances that we already seen causing an exodus of heritage local F&B operators? And will this make Singapore's dining scene less exciting for travelers who favor authentic gourmet journeys when they are on the road?
All right, well, Karen, the crystal ball is still on the way. It's on the Amazon ship, still on the way. It's not so easy to answer that question, but maybe before I go into that question, I'd like to comment a little bit about what Dylan mentioned earlier about trade shows. So just to share an example, RAS together with one of our trade partners, SAMS, we did I think the first trade show in the last 2 years, where we had about 100 booths. Restaurant Asia on the I can't remember. It just happened a couple of weeks ago in November.
1,000 packs per day, which is very, very good numbers.
Yeah, so that numbers were I was a little bit surprised and pleasantly surprised when we saw the crowd. Of course, it's not your pre-pandemic type of crowd, but you could see that humans were coming out. People were really, I think, a little bit of, you've been stuck too long at home. You really want to come out. They really want to engage, and you can see that the engagement is very, very different. This face-to-face type of business discussion engagements if we are not careful about it, it's going to be a lost art lah. This is a really priceless type of experience, and I think some of us who are maybe slightly older, we still want to enjoy some of this. It's really quite different, and we really hope that this is a start. This is a signal to the country, to STB, and whoever that is looking after the MICE sector to be a little bit more positive and more confident, to see how we can do this a little bit more. And Dylan correctly pointed out the SMEs, the smaller companies, whether it's Singapore smaller companies, or the companies around the region, they are the ones that really thrive and really need some of these platforms to sustain their business. All right, so Karen, going back to your question about heritage brands and all that, I think with or without COVID, and whether or not it is heritage brands or whatever it is, business comes and go. And the challenge or the interesting thing about the F&B sector is that it is always a very it's always a sector where people are very attracted to. Entrepreneurs are very attracted to. Barriers of entry are not very high. So the churn, people will come and people will go. Just to cite some statistics, as of year to date, as of today, I think the latest numbers were October numbers, if I'm not wrong. We have the numbers from how many companies opened this year and how many companies closed this year, how many outlets for F&B case. So year to date, we are at positive 1,300 outlets. Okay, the whole of last year, 2020, the number was a positive 1,200. So year to date, 10 months, we are already 100 outlets more compared to last year. So which means that the industry is still very vibrant. But if you compare this number to pre-COVID days in 2019 had 600-700, positive 600-700. So really, you see that there are a lot of things happening. Like it or not, jobs are being lost. There are companies in different sectors who are downsizing. Where do these guys go to? Some of them do. I don't want to say this. I don't say this in a demeaning way, but do different things, from your safe distancing ambassadors to whatever SMM help that MOH requires and all that. But there are also people who've come out and decided to do business, and F&B is really one of those. And we are excited from an industry standpoint. We are excited because it brings in the vibrancy, it brings the new new, what do you call it, the new concepts and all that. But I think we also need to be very responsible from an association standpoint, from an industry standpoint. We need to be very responsible about this. Let people know that, hey, it's exciting. Okay, it's not all glam and all that. Please look at the numbers. Please look at your concepts. Please look at your competition. And I think these days we also tell people that please buffer in a little bit more, because there are some things such as viruses and corresponding national policy changes that you have no control over, even as a businessman. Contrary to popular belief, I don't care who your mother, father, son is. Sometimes you just don't have. These are almost like eruption, volcanic eruption in Jakarta. You don't have. So do buffer in some of these things. Otherwise, you not only burn yourself, you disrupt the market prices, whether is it rentals, whether is it salaries of workforce or whatever. And it the entire sector does get affected because of all these things. Yeah.
Okay. I have a question for Dylan. Business events typically bring spillover spend to many hospitality and related businesses. But with pandemic controls, are expenditures more muted? What sort of contributions can business events still bring to Singapore's hospitality and related businesses?
I think undeniably that has taken a severe hit. In 2020, especially as we pivoted and moved towards an online audience, the repercussions or spillovers to adjoining and adjacent businesses were minimized. People were watching, and like today, we're taking part in a virtual session. That diminishes our opportunity to thereafter go out and maybe have a coffee or lunch, which would have existed pre-pandemic. So I think 2020, there was a strong hit to the adjoining industries, but we're hoping in 2021, especially as we now move towards more events and a certain liberalization, that it gives us the opportunity to have more warm bodies reconvene in a physical premise and less virtual audiences. As an estimate, I think 80% of all event attendees in 2020 attended events virtually. We're hoping for that to reverse in 2022, that 80% of event attendees make the effort to go back to a physical event. And of course, there'll be 20% who join virtually out of necessity, unavailable to travel or various other reasons. But with the 80% warm bodies, I think you will see, whether it's from airlines businesses coming in, whether it's then people with the warm bodies at conferences, at trade shows, going to restaurants, going to hopefully revitalized nightlife industry. I think that's what we're really counting on. So it's taken a bad hit, but we hope with certain liberalizations and with each event that we do that showcases we can do a successful business event in a safe and controlled environment, it gives us added impetus to do more and therefore contribute to the greater ecosystem as well.
Okay, good. Earlier, we heard how Dream Cruises was able to support local opportunities into onboard experiences. Are there opportunities to do the same among your members or your business, so as to ensure that tourism becomes an effective vehicle for helping local communities and businesses grow? Royston, was there something that SIA did where it brought in local business exposures?
In fact, we actually work with Dream Cruise, Chris Flyer.
That's right, you did, yes.
Correct. Actually launched a 2-night cruise experience exclusively for our customers. The specially chartered cruise was on board the World Dream, operated by Dream Cruises. It set sail in 17 to 19 November this year. So members could actually use their Chris Flyer miles to book the experience and enjoy a variety of activities and gifts on board the Dream Cruise. So customers who booked on, like for example, the Palace Deluxe Suites and Palace Suites can enjoy first class in-flight meal on their first flight. I mean, this is really an experience that is just created for this product. And not only that, we actually had grooming workshop that are conducted by our cabin crew, trainers on board the cruise itself. So members were able to pay for purchases on board the World Dream using their Chris Plus mobile app. So that is one of the initiatives that SIA has thought of working with Dream Cruise to see how we can work together hand in hand. And I think that this could be more initiatives that as a tourism travel and hotel industry, we can definitely work more together in that sense.
Okay. Rose, are there opportunities for retailers to support local communities and businesses while they are doing their usual operations?
Give me a moment, my dog is barking. Yeah, I think firstly, maybe perhaps if I can actually, give my input, I think we need to bring not just the business events, but we need to bring back consumer events, right? I mean, the IT show, the COMEX, where it actually gives retailers an opportunity to, launch new products, showcase and drive sales. So I think that's very important. And to put that vibrance back into shopping, we should be seeing Mickey Mouse back in the malls. We should be seeing Sesame Street characters roaming, Transformers, these are all the activities that are now missing, that have disappeared, simply because of all the safe management measures. So if we actually bring those back, I think it can actually, bring back some of the vibrance that is really needed to create a certain of an experience, because that is what makes online retail and offline retail different. Because online you're just moving your fingers, flipping, slide page by page, etc. But in the offline, you are, your five senses are evoked, and that's very important, because it drives you to spend, it motivates you, it gives you to eat, and that's where when you have more relaxed SMM measures in F&B, it also drives more people to subsequently shop. So retail suffered when dining was limited to 2, because you don't just go to shop, you actually shop, eat, and then you enjoy the experience. So I think consumer events is one. If I were to also kind of like crystal ball, we are looking at perhaps, given the uncertainties, etc., perhaps we are looking at smaller, more intimate groups that will come into Singapore. And therefore, it is also important at this point in time that we curate and make it, an experience. It is an adventure for twosomes, maybe for, probably even max a group of 4 people, to move around. And I think this is where the opportunity is for Made with Passion brands, for the last 2 years. I mean, the first year we had 50, and this year we have another 64. I think the whole idea of cross-sector collaboration or cross-brands collaboration, it is important to, until, inbound travelers come in droves, it is important that our locals, are given more awareness of our local brands and to support them. Then with that kind of support and with the kind of local awareness, it also gives them confidence to propel, overseas. And I think that's where the e-commerce is also important for them, because that's the fastest and surest way at this point in time, without being overseas physically, to get their products sold. Yeah.
Okay. In organizing this online forum, PATA Singapore chapter was driven by a desire to bring all hospitality and related associations together, to forge a collective way forward towards recovery. What opportunities are there for collaboration do you see possible that will benefit Singapore's travel and tourism industry? Now, during this, throughout this discussion, you have given us examples like, Singapore Airlines partner with Dream Cruises, and, different organizations that even cross industries are coming together. What other ways or other collaboration is possible that's not yet happened, but you hope for that it would happen to help bring us back to recovery faster? Would Michelle come in?
Karen, I think that there's too much points in that question. If you can just summarize it for me, I'm so sorry.
No worries. So do you feel that there are areas of collaboration with not just businesses in hospitality, but businesses outside of hospitality that could help propel Singapore's hospitality industries quicker towards recovery?
Okay, thank you for the recap. Yeah, I think we are all in this conference in aid of collaborative relationships. I think I mentioned in my deck that it's really unusual that the hotel GMs now become quarantine directors who's directing the well-being of their guests. So I think it just allows us to be really open to the possibilities of collaboration. I cite an example, we wanted to do a cycling tour, and one of the pit stops was in a hotel at Robertson Quay. And when we approached them, they also value the idea of us bringing in visitors who's never been to Singapore River before. We are giving them an alternative experience, and they welcome that. So I think it's all about the creative solutions, co-creation, and see what we can do together. Another example is about you wanting to do forest bathing in Jewel. Yesterday, I hands up on that as well. It's all about wellness. Right now, everybody's really stressed. Who cares about Zoom being so convenient? I think that adds to the stress level as well. Yeah, we are looking at engaging with a wellness coach to do a series of wellness workshops, perhaps throwing in a hotel stay or two, so that we start off the day with meditation, about it, just getting your presence of mind, and end up with a well-balanced meal at another F&B outlet. So I think our stakeholders are more open with ideas and collaborations. Typically, they wouldn't have that sort of bandwidth in the past, but now I think everybody's really able to think out of the box and see how we can help each other.
Yeah. Edwin, do you have any inputs on that question?
Actually, I think the last 2 years we've seen quite a fair bit of collaboration among the different F&B brands as well. So whether it was at the start of Circuit Breaker last year, if you guys remember, there was just before Circuit Breaker that evening, I think 10 o'clock in the evening, 10, 11 o'clock, there was huge queues of bubble tea.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Some of us forgot, but because it was very clear that they said no bubble tea and no cakes and all that. So I think because of that, it started really quite a fair bit of collaboration. So bubble tea collaborated with some other brands to package it as a bundle and all that. So we started seeing a lot of this kind of collaboration, and I think even slowly, and we are also seeing now that there are two different brands, going in to negotiate together with the landlords, to take up space in different. So they are doing some of these things, whether they can do it with other brands, non-food related brands. I see that opportunity definitely, but it's truly these 2 years has given every business owner an opportunity to work together. And I think maybe just to expand this question a little bit, the last 2 years has also showed that actually Singaporeans can get together. We can come together and we can talk. We can also fight for our cause. So the last 2 years was tough for everybody. There were issues about rental. There was issues about how to deal with difficult customers. There were issues about how to deal with the SMMs and all that. And I think the community and what I wrote, put in my slide, the adversity that we faced in the last 2 years really brought the community together. And I think people start to be a little bit more sharing of information and new ideas and all that, because like it or not, while the pie is big, you can't eat everything as well. So come together, work together, and hopefully we can have some new ideas and rejuvenate the market a little bit as well.
Now, Edwin spoke about rising costs, and there was a question also from Robin Yap about should prices rise to reflect an increasing labor cost that Singapore is facing? Now, it's not just labor costs, right? Earlier you also talked about delivery costs that has surpassed rental costs for one of your contacts. Maybe let's discuss this. Will Singapore become pricier than it already is known for?
I wouldn't I wouldn't be able to answer that question directly, but I would swing the comment in a different way. Um, we all know that the prices are, cost is going up and all that, manpower costs, whatever it is. And in different businesses, and really depending on what kind of businesses you are in, some businesses, the net margins of some businesses are already razor thin. For example, F&B sector, I think we all know that really razor thin margins. At the end of the day, are businesses able to absorb everything? I think to some extent they will reach a stage where they can't. And that time we will need the support of consumers, our customers, to contribute part of it. I think even for food delivery costs, we already see some of that kind of coming together to support the cost. We've already seen some of that happening. Previously, we never had this thing called delivery costs when you do a food delivery order, right? Now you're starting to see it. So that and that's probably because of the what do you call it, the food delivery riders. We've got to pay them, right? Somebody's got to do the job. You want that convenience, you got to pay them. And I think 2 days ago or 3 days ago, there was an article in the papers as well to say that in general wages have gone up the last 2 years as well. So all these are going up, and unless the community comes in together, which means the national policy makers, your government, your business owners, and consumers, and even citizens, if we don't come in together to support, the direction where the society is going towards, right, then we will, it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be polarized. There's I mean, we have not talked so much about progressive wage model. I don't want to start it here. We have not talked so much about the impending GST increase that is maybe coming up in, I don't know, a couple of months. So there are some of these things that we know that's in the background. So I think really, if we want to support the our low wage workers, our low wage friends in the society, then the community, the whole entire society needs to come together to do the support.
Dylan, when we put programs together in Singapore, you look at the cost. The clients will want to look at the cost, right? So moving forward into 2022, what is the costing like for live in-person events in Singapore?
I think there are a few very broad-based replies to that, but let me start by just, before I get into the exact crux of that, let me just start by talking about what we spoke about earlier, about how associations and industries can work closer together, which I think is a very important point. I think in many ways, and Edwin has also pointed this out, and so has Royston, competitors have become collaborators. Right? Who would have thought 2 years ago that SIA would partner with Dream Cruises to launch a cruise, when the pie was always fighting for, are you going on a holiday via a plane, or are you going on a cruise for 3 days, 2 nights, whatever it is? But I think it's really important that how competitors have become collaborators. And this ties in to many other things. Firstly, on the point about price points, when competitors become collaborators, it offers the opportunity to lower price points. When we spoke about restaurants or retailers coming together to negotiate rents with landlords, that was for a common interest. But it showed that how in adversity, different groups coming together can actually work together. And that is the true measure of a people as well as an industry. For the MICE sector in particular, we've had to grapple with a few things since the pandemic started with regards to cost. Firstly, the move to a hybrid or a virtual event was not without pain and without cost. Let me explain this a little bit further. Virtual events take place in all kinds of forms and variety. There are some like this, which is using a Zoom platform. There are some which entails a much higher degree of customization, of brand profiling of sponsors. And I think then the skill sets and the costs associated with this undeniably increase as well. It ties into not just broadcast capability, not just cyber security and data protection, but also the soft skills, which are the technicians running the show, the graphic operators, the sound guys punching out to a virtual platform, who also then have become more in demand. So the price point has gone up. I think taking that into a hybrid model when we reopened the business events in the last quarter of 2020, with safe measurement measures, there was increased cost of communication, information, as well as enforcement. Whether it's signages to tell people to stay 1 meter apart, whether it's additional manpower to enforce safe check-ins, safe distancing. These all invariably put a high cost. Tension poles and queue poles have never been more popular in Singapore at an event. Just because we had to demarcate everything, zones, queues, etc. And this contributed to additional cost for organizers and for clients. In the short term, it was a painful cost to incur, but it was deemed a necessary evil to mitigate the reopening of large-scale events. Moving forward to 2022, I think the cost of virtual events will go down simply because of new entrants to the marketplace, as well as lower cost of adaptation of technology. And the cost of hopefully the physical setup within an event, the queue poles, the signages, will also ease up with liberalization of zoning as we move into a state of endemicity. So I think really price points vary, but at the same time, to answer the question also about how Dream Cruises and we have a rise in, due to a rise in labor costs as well as other costs, should we increase price of participation at events or at attractions or at restaurants? I think this presents an opportunity for all industries to really look at segmentation, how we segment the market. The reality is, and it's a very confusing world we live in right now. We talk about the struggles of many of our industries, but at the same time, if you look at like I mentioned earlier, the hotel take-up rate in December, it's sky high. So it looks as if there's a lot of pent-up demand as well as disposable income, notwithstanding that we're not out of a pandemic just yet. So I think this confusion presents also an opportunity for segmenting the market to different price points. Whether it's hotels giving additional space and perks to a higher paying client, whether it's Dream Cruises having their private swimming pool, and it's really a segmentation that SIA probably specializes in with the class categorization. So I think, notwithstanding the challenges that we face, segmentizing the marketplace, carving it into different segments, really is an opportunity for many of our industries to look at of how we can incentivize the right buying behavior across the right target audience.
Okay, thank you so much for your inputs there. Kenneth, can we bring up the fourth poll for the audience? Now we know that business travelers and business event travelers as well contribute about 3 to 4 times more than the average leisure traveler when they are on the road. So let's look at how do you expect business travel to Singapore to perform in 2022 compared to pre-COVID in 2019, sorry. Okay, the results are coming in. A lot of respondents are saying that they expect business travel to Singapore to be down more than 10% next year. Okay, Kenneth, we can end the poll and we can share the results now. Okay, so there's still a lot of expectations that VTLs will likely be driven by friends and relatives at the start and mostly essential travel and the traveling workforce, like Edwin has pointed out. All right, I've just one more question from the audience. Now, yesterday there were a couple of questions about the hiring landscape that's available in the hospitality industry right now. So we had some encouraging updates yesterday from our panelists. So hotels in Singapore are ramping up hiring again. Changi Airport Group is also doing the same. What is the hiring landscape in your sector and what skill sets are most important now, you think? Edwin, would you like to comment on that?
Yes, thanks for this question. It's a very good question to ask at this moment. Right now, I think, like I said earlier, manpower costs, salaries have been going up because really there's a shortage of especially a frontline crew for the F&B sector. So actually, from RAS perspective, for the whole of this year and also next year, we have been working with we have been working on job fairs, working with this group called good.com, QOOD.com. So we've done two job fairs in the last half a year. There will be another one next week at Keat Hong CC. So for job seekers out there, if you are keen to do F&B roles and all that, please come forward. Can come to the job fair, and there will be employers waiting there to offer you all kinds of jobs. What kind of personalities or what kind of attributes you require for F&B? I think generally if you are as long as you're not shy about interact, you don't have to be 100% outgoing. You don't have to be like a stand-up, you don't need a stand-up comedian kind of personality to do F&B. I think as long as you are okay with interacting with people, and these days if you look at some concepts, slowly the interaction, which I don't how do I put it, which works for different concepts. Some of the interaction bit has also been replaced by online ordering or iPad ordering or QR code ordering and all that. So that portion has also evolved, and now you just need to be a little bit more like a brand ambassador, where some F&B concepts have taken on board. So you see some of these things as well. So do come forward. I think the sector is interesting. It's really vibrant. Like I said earlier, year to date already positive 1,300 outlets open for 2021. So really a lot of interest, a lot of vibrancy. As long as you are willing to work, you're willing to try, I don't think any F&B employer today will say no to you.
Okay. Michelle, what is the hiring situation over with your members now?
Actually, to be honest, the F&B sector has always find themselves having labor shortage. I think it is a tough industry, and it's also hard to retain staff. So I think moving forward, employers also need to look at how they can sort of retain staff, especially with the advent of technology. I think Edwin sort of sums it up by making them as brand ambassadors, having that human touch, and making it fun for everybody. So the mutual respect from customers is important for them to feel valued as service staff as well. On the hospitality front, I think it all depends on the certainty of travelers coming back to Singapore. So right now it's hard to say because some of these hotel staff have been seconded as SMM officers. So it's a question of what Dylan was saying about the certainty of some of the situation and how we can plan forward, with all these things in place.
Rose, how are things over at the retailer side? Is hiring coming back again?
I think it's more like, where are all of them? Why can't I find any sales assistants? Yeah. So it's been a challenge, and I think retail, is perhaps one of the least attractive, vocation, because it's not seen as though it's a career, it's not a profession, and one always imagines that you have to stand all the time, and then of course during the COVID period, whereby they have restrictions, the sales assistants themselves are feeling like, hey, I'm standing in the shop whole day, but no one is walking in, So it is not not exactly the most enduring or with a long-term career kind of thing. But on the contrary, actually it does have, if the businesses and leaders see it as a career path, which currently this is actually being job redesigned so that, we can see these sales personnel on the shop front. They can be something like your shoppertainers or your happiness ambassadors, because everyone feels happy, right, when they've actually bought something,
Yes.
Yeah, just like online, when you receive a package in a ding dong, you open up, it's like, oh, a package has arrived.
Every day is Christmas, yes.
Yeah, so I think the whole idea is for us to actually reposition retail as an attractive career option. But definitely, I think it's been challenging. The cost has also gone up because the transition from school to work is actually a very huge change for a lot of the the students going into the workforce. Some of them are not accustomed to it, and on top of that, I think most of them come out wanting to be digital warriors. Yeah, want to join the Facebook, the ByteDance, and the Google, but gosh, we cannot afford to pay these people this money, right? So and if you are very good at the storefront, then you'll be poached lah. So in a way, some retailers are like, train my staff, then later they get poached how, So again, it's always this thing. But I think more importantly also, because I think some of our retail assistants or the local workforce is not as hungry, as your foreign workers. And therefore, I think the feedback from the retailers are that the foreign workers are hungry because they come here to Singapore for one purpose: earn money. They have to bring back the money back for their family, etc. I think in Singapore, the workforce, because most of us, even my 23-year-old daughter is still staying with us, still depending on, still getting allowance and eating on me, and everything, and not contributing. No job, never mind law, Yeah, so that's why there are not enough people going into the workforce. But this mentality has to change if we are really want to survive. And it is also very difficult for the retail sector, especially, to actually increase our prices, because it will actually put us off, or rather put shoppers like you off, because we cannot be competitive. Whereas food are different. Breakfast, morning, breakfast, lunch, dinner, supper, all must take one. You can do without that dress. You can go without that bag. You can don't put lipstick because you now have to wear a mask, So, retail products are a lot more kind of like discretionary. So I think it is a tough road ahead. Therefore, I think we need skilled workforce. We need them with critical store skills. We need them with soft skills. Yeah, we need them with new skills. To do live streaming, social commerce, engage on on Instagram, etc. to sell. But yet at the same time, we also need to make sure that we make them happy so that they can actually stay.
Yeah, that's true.
Very, very difficult job for the retailers right now. Yeah.
Royston, are you able to comment on the hiring situation over at SQ?
In fact, SIA has restarted hiring this year. We have gone on a hiring freeze for the last year, even early part of this year, but we have started. But more importantly is how we have done, we have actually put in a lot of effort to retain our talented staff and invest in them, because these are the staff that actually helps to deliver the world-class service that SQ is renowned for. Yeah. So, other than that, if let's say there are vacancies and we really need to fill, we have been doing so while managing our cost base. So, all in all, I think that as the aviation industry picks up with more flights, hiring will be definitely one of the. We have to start hiring.
Yeah, definitely.
Can I apply?
Yeah.
Sure. Send it to me.
A change of
I will forward to my HR.
Dylan, things should be also exciting in the event space, no? In terms of hiring, because of all the events are coming back again.
It is, but it does present a quandary as well. And just now we had the survey of what keeps association and our members awake at night. I think for SASIOS, it's really the loss of talent and the pipeline drain or thin pipeline in the last 18 months. As people have moved away, as we have contracted out of necessity in the last 18 months, some people have had to understandably look for alternate industries to join. And as things come back to activity and life, we might not be able to get all this talented personnel back. The new entrants into the market also present a challenge. As people, I think Rose pointed out, everybody wants to join a digital tech company, Facebook or Google or LinkedIn. Yeah. So that does present challenges because there are a strong demand for talent in those industries that actually will dilute the talent that we are seeking as well.
Yeah.
And like Rose pointed out, the price points that we may offer might differ as well across the different industries. The reality is a lot of us, even in these associations, are fighting for same talent pool. Whether it's for retail staff, whether it's for wait staff in a restaurant, or for event support services, registration staff, ushers, a lot of it comes from the same talent pool.
Yeah.
So then it becomes a case of how much can you offer to pay and how do you offer to pay? How quickly can you pay as well? So that incentivizes the short-term talent crunch. The long-term talent crunch, I think, is really something that we pay more attention to, where we need skill sets in the industry that previously did not exist. An event manager now has to be also a digital event manager, to give an example. And this presents new skill sets, in creative thinking, broadcast capabilities, just to name a couple. And I think this, whilst the industry is now looking very hard to increase the talent pool, the pipeline is thinner, and therefore it makes it more challenging and more difficult. And we have to balance this off against customer and client expectations. Some clients and customers will think that an event is back, go get it, which we have that hunger and desire for, but we've got to make sure that we have the right talent to deliver the event. If not, reputational damage is more severe.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, we've approached the end of our session. Before we wrap this up, I would like to get each of you to give me one word that would best describe your hope for 2022. Royston, start with you. One word.
Me, fortitude.
Fortitude. Very good. Edwin?
I would re-emphasize this word confident. Let's be confident as a society, as our policymakers and all that. I think we've gone through it, and we know what is required to get the business through, to get the society through as well. So let's be confident and come out and what do I say? Just recapture our lives again. Right?
That's right.
Thank you.
Right. Rose, one word to describe your hope for the new year.
Resilience.
Valid, very valid. Michelle?
Hopeful.
Definitely. And Dylan?
Stabilization.
We need that stabilization. Yes. Thank you
Can
so
I
much.
have another one? Can I have another
yes.
one?
Yes, go for it, Rose.
We must be adaptable.
All very good advice. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you to our panelists who have devoted their time to this discussion. I had a very good conversation, and I hope you guys enjoyed the sharings that were given, offered by our panelists. So back to you, Sunhua.
Thank you, Karen, and all the panelists for such an interesting exchange. Now we have come to the end of the SG Tourism United Forum. We thank everyone for investing your precious time with us and hope that you have enjoyed the forum and take away valuable insights. Now, PATA Singapore chapter salutes all industry stakeholders and all the people employed in this industry. This is our industry, and we must do everything possible to keep it going. Let's be united. Let's learn, share, and collaborate to fully leverage on the power of one. Here's wishing one and all happy holidays and all the very best for 2022. Stay safe and keep well.